Mike Rice out at Rutgers, March Madness wraps up, and Brittany Griner with the boys. All that and more today on Sports Talk Live. Welcome to the show, everybody. Sports Talk Live today, Testosterone Edition. Joined by my fellas here, we got Darrell King, Troy Brooks, and Chuck Snyder, getting you caught up on all of this week's latest topics in sports. Guys, let's get started right away. Let's talk about Rutgers coach Mike Rice. News broke a couple weeks ago that Mike Rice was out at Rutgers after abusing players by throwing basketballs at them, pushing them and everything. Later to follow, the athletic director and the president were both ousted at the university. So, guys, what do we think about this? Chuck, why don't you start us off?
I've been playing sports all my life, first of all. So I like to say that I thought that was outrageous when I saw the film from that. They always talk about coaching and how you can get a little louder at your players to get them doing a little more. However, he took it way over the top. I would say with how he threw the ball at the players and how he's grabbing them and yanking them around is ridiculous. That should have been talked about way earlier.
The first thing I thought of when I saw the footage was absolutely unbelievable. How could an individual with such a professional role commit such malicious acts? And I wonder how long these players have been going through such harsh treatment. And these aren't boxers or UFC fighters that you worked with, Mike Tice. They are student athletes. And being a student athlete myself, I can imagine how Rutgers players feel. We exceed expectations for our university and the sport, and to be treated with physical abuse is appalling. What does this do to their mentality long term? Couldn't be anything positive. I'm 100% satisfied with the firing of Mike Rice, and he doesn't deserve to work with people on this level. And honestly, I think he should probably go take some courses in interpersonal communication.
Yeah. Just to go off what Troy said, personally, I had a big problem with the video as well. And about the UFC fights, it would have turned into one if that was me, because I can't just get the ball thrown at my head consistently and tackled and bit. And it was pretty malicious out there. And however, that his assistant was also ousted. I mean, he resigned actually, and he was shown doing the same thing Mike Rice was doing, and it was pretty bad. So I would have turned into a UFC fight big time. We were out there scrapping.
Absolutely. I think the thing that you got to look at with that, the thing that stuck out the most to me, was the fact that you look at the player's reaction, and there's the initial reaction of, I'm getting something thrown at me, I'm going to flinch, or, I just got pushed, what the heck. But after that, they kind of walk away like nothing happened, Like kind of just like you were saying, it'd be a fight with me. But with them, they were used to it. So it's what kind of culture was he building there, in the sense that these players, after that initial, what's going on, just kind of walked away like it was any other day. And on top of it, you look at it and you say, when was the first time that this happened? I mean, there had to be the first time that he threw a ball at a player, the first time he pushed a player, or he was using homophobic slurs as well. There's had to be that first time, that second time, that third time. And what was everyone else doing? I mean, we see footage of behind the scenes at practices and everything like that. And, there's trainers there, there's ball boys, there's assistant coaches, injured players. And how could they sit there and watch that? It's just like when a crime takes place. It's like if you're not there trying to help, then, you're an accessory. So I guess, to me, I think that it goes beyond Mike Rice. And I'm glad that other people also, were held accountable for their actions. I think, everyone down to the ball boy who was there should, I'm not saying you get fired the ball boy, but at least, talk to him and, talk to everybody involved and see, what kind of moral decision making was made at a time like that. So, it's odd.
Well, yeah, and going off of that, the investigation is still going on. So we don't really know what actually happened, and probably within a few weeks from now, we'll eventually find out, this is when it started, why did no one respond to it? And also, most of those players are varsity college athletes who don't really know if they should talk back to their coach. and are just there and kind of have to deal with what they got held or handed to them, which is kind of the sad part about it. But you can't really, when you're at that level, you don't really question your coach. You're thinking, well, he's the coach of my basketball team. He's got to know what he's doing.
See, personally, actually, he had a history of this, like when he was at his time in Robert Morris as well. And I feel like the reason why the students didn't speak out, the student athletes, is because like he plays for Rutgers. So it's not a huge D1 powerhouse. So if you get cut from Rutgers, where are you going to go?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And on top of it, there's another thing that you look at is initially it was just a 3-game suspension and a fine. And not until it came out that it was actually something bigger did they really, decide to take further action. Moving on the court, we had some action last night, in case you weren't living under a rock. March Madness wrapped up with Louisville and Michigan taking on one another in the NCAA championship game. Louisville coming out on top. If you guys got a chance to watch the game, what were your thoughts on the game in general and just March Madness?
Well, I just want to give a round of applause for Louisville. They had an amazing month of March. After the first round of the NCAA tournament, I knew that this was the team to beat. And why? Team chemistry, nothing but team chemistry. You could easily see that Louisville was a team of brothers just coming together on a nightly basis with a common purpose. They wanted to win at all costs. They were the most disciplined team, and they had the scrap needed to battle the best teams in the NCAA. I also want to commend Michigan. They had a very talented team, a lot of star power, and they played like they wanted to win the championship. Unfortunately, things didn't work out for them, but way to represent the Big Ten Conference.
The March Madness, I would like to give a congratulations to Louisville as well. You did very well. But the whole March Madness is all, like, for me personally, was disappointing because I'm a huge Kansas fan. So for them to get beat by the Michigan, who played for the championship last night, was really, really heartbreaking for myself. Especially you're up by 12 points with 3 minutes left. It was a pretty tough one. But once again, I want to congratulate Michigan as well for their efforts they did this year. It was really good.
And I mean, when you look at that game last night and you look at the tournament in general, in March Madness you got to have good guard play and you got to have guys that can fill their roles, and that's what Louisville had. And Louisville had the team chemistry as well. When Kevin Ware went down with that horrific injury, they kind of used that as almost a rallying cry and almost momentum for him, to really pick their game up. And in that Duke game, he goes down and they end up beating Duke by 20 points, and that's just an impressive win in and of itself. Louisville did what they needed to do all tournament long. They made the necessary adjustments, just like Michigan did too. Michigan had to play against a great team in VCU that runs a trap in the press very well. They had to get past the best defense in the entire tournament in Syracuse. And both teams, I think, took different roads. Louisville had to deal with Oregon, the 12 seed. They had to deal with Wichita State, so maybe some of the more Cinderella teams. But on the other side, Michigan had to take on some of the powerhouses. Your Kansas, your top tier teams like that, the teams that a lot of people were picking to go far. So, I think that the way it wrapped up kind of was very fitting. It was a very energetic, up and down game, very scrappy, a lot of fouls and everything like that. So I thought it was a great game.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree with that. What I'm going to say, though, is that I believe Louisville, the reason why they could take it, besides the fact that they had a good relationship, was that they were not listed as like they were. I mean, a lot of people chose them. I personally chose them to win, but a lot of people were choosing Indiana, thinking that Indiana was going to take it. So that put a lot of pressure on Indiana's shoulders that they had to be the team. And obviously, we all saw that they lost early out. So Louisville took that hold, and then, like you said, with Kevin Ware's horrific injury, as soon as that happened, I was watching it live. I actually tweeted. I was like, "Well, there goes Louisville is going to win the game. They definitely have it now because of all of the impact that took." So I'd like to congratulate Louisville for being able to get through that and be able to fight on, and Rick Pitino for being able to keep his team strong and hold them through all of that, and all the support they've shown through Kevin Ware. Also, to congratulate Michigan. They had a great season, representing the Big Ten for us, and pretty much, no one really thought they would go that far, and Michigan pulled it through and went all the way to the finals, and it was a great game. It was probably one of the best games, national championships, I have seen in a while.
Just to go off what you guys said, like, Louisville was a great team. They didn't have like the superstars like all the other previous winners had from the national championship. Like last year, they had Anthony Davis for Kentucky. I think the year prior was that Duke that won.
UConn with Kemba Walker.
Yeah,
Yep.
and these are all pretty big NBA superstars there. And I don't believe Louisville has like a set superstar. Peyton Seaver's pretty good, but I don't think they have the superstars, and they just did it as a team, which really surprised
It's
me.
not like Trey Burke from Michigan, who everyone knows for winning the Big Ten Player of the Year.
Yep.
I was happy to see the representation of Wisconsin basketball in March Madness. I know that Wisconsin got eliminated in the first round, but Marquette did get pretty far, and it's my hometown, so I thought I might add a little bit about Marquette and Wisconsin. Nice job, Marquette and Wisconsin.
Yeah, Marquette definitely played well. I think Marquette surprised a lot of people throughout the season. Every year it's kind of said that, whatever Marquette does is overachieving because they don't get the recruits that, your Wisconsin gets or, maybe some of your other Big East power teams. But Marquette definitely had a good run, and it was a great tournament overall. Moving on, we'll go back off the court, and Pac-12 referee head of refereeing Ed Rush. It came out a couple weeks ago that Ed Rush had offered the referees for the Pac-12 tournament $5,000 as well as a trip to Mexico if they would fine or throw out head coach of Arizona, Sean Miller. We see things like this in refereeing in the past with different betting and everything. That's not a scar that the NCAA tournament or the NCAA in general needs, is it?
I don't think so. Because as far as the accusation about if they teed him up and threw him out, I believe the referees in this case, and this was a joke. I just think it was an honest joke, and for them to lose their job or resign for it, I believe it was kind of sad.
You see, I don't know. I really want to know what is really going on with refs in sports nowadays. I see a lot of craziness going on, offering $5,000 or a trip to Mexico for a ref to make a wrong call on another coach, on an opposing coach. That's ridiculous. As viewers, we don't know what is going on under the table in the world of sports, and these incidents just make things much worse. And it saddens me to see that the people with the authority in sports are making these statements, because what it does is it takes away the credibility of the refs and sports figures. So, not good.
Going off of what you just said, the refs did when they were playing UCLA was playing Arizona. At the end of the game, I believe it was Arizona was up 72-70. I probably corrected, and then they actually teed up the Arizona coach and tossed him out, which led to UCLA winning and moving on to the Pac-12 championship. Where obviously though in the NCAA tournament, my team Minnesota Gophers beat them. For once, we actually won a sport, so that was pretty sweet.
All's fair.
Yes, but going off that though, of what Troy was just saying, I think it also falls down onto the NCAA president. There's been a lot of things going on recently in the NCAA, especially for basketball and football, and I really think that the presidents are going to need to start sitting down with all of their employees and everyone who works for the NCAA and be like, hey guys, this is the lines, this is what we need to do, and like sit down and make sure that everything is going on right, because every year we figure out about all these major things that are happening behind the scenes. But at the same time, you do kind of think that there's going to be always money involved when you're constantly having these players under so much stress and so much pressure to do well in sports and then also try to graduate from college.
Yeah. You look at it, and if it is something in terms of a sense of humor or a joke, that's not my sense of humor. That's not a good joke to me, personally. In a league where, or an organization or a business, if you want to call the NCAA that, which it's kind of becoming, you have to look at, everyone's interaction with one another and everyone's, communication and everything like that. And if it gets to the point where you need to monitor emails and everything so that you can get out ahead of these kinds of things, in terms of the UCLA game, I know that he was ejected or he was teed up in that game, and the ref said, it had nothing to do with that. But, who do you trust anymore is a real question. And in basketball, where everything happens so fast and referees are constantly scrutinized, Ed Rush gave them a big black eye, because the last thing that you need is a guy to come in and and make comments like this that make honest guys that are doing their job with integrity look even worse. So I think it's a black eye for the NCAA, whether it was a joke or not. Ed Rush did step down. He did resign, which is just kind of becoming common practice for guys if they're in controversy, just like Mike Rice or guys just stepping down after coming under scrutiny. So I think that this is something that it's going to take the Pac-12 a little bit of time to get past. I think that when they hire the next person, they need to as the head of officiating, they need to make sure that it's someone that they trust and that this kind of thing isn't going to happen again. All right, now let's move to the ones who get played. We'll talk a little bit about the NBA real quick. Not college, yeah. But recently, Mark Cuban, owner of the Dallas Mavericks, made a comment that he would pick Brittany Griner from the Baylor Lady Bears to play in the NBA. Now, there's never been a lady NBA player before, as we all know. But, guys, what do you think the chances are that that could actually happen?
Well, let me state a fact. Griner surely has evolved women's basketball. I mean, when have you seen a 6'8" woman dunk consecutively in games? When do you see that? Her physical presence is unmatched, but I'm sorry, Mark, I don't think it'll work, actually. Brittany wouldn't survive in the NBA, and I want to know if you can think of any players that Brittany would stand a chance against. You know that she's a post player. What post player would she be able to defend? I can't think of any. So with players like LeBron James posterizing players, you know, all these YouTube videos and things like that, and you put Brittany Griner in the mix, do you think she's ready for that? I don't think so. I like you, Brittany Griner, but I'm sorry you're not ready for the NBA.
Yeah, just look at the Louisville game. She got roughed up pretty bad, and she couldn't do much. Imagine, you know, these are guys, and the size, she's 6'8", and that's the average size of a guard now in the NBA. You have LeBron James, who's 6'9", Kobe Bryant, who's 6'6", I believe, and she's not going to stand a chance of guarding these guys. They're just too quick, too fast, too strong. It's no way she stands a chance guarding them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that that Mark Cuban, he's a guy who likes to make, you know, outlandish comments, and he likes to say a lot of stuff that's going to get him the headlines. And you know, he's even been a guy in the past that likes to take attention off his own team and bring it on himself. In this case, you know, it's not involving the Dallas Mavericks per se, but he's just, you know, stating his opinion. An opinion I respect. He knows a lot more about basketball than I do, and he's got a lot more money than I do. So, but anyway, he, you know, I think he was trying to make a comment in support of Brittany Griner and in support of women's athletics, and I think that's an admirable thing to do. But, you know, Darrell, kind of like what you were saying, she's 6'8". Most post players in the NBA are at the very least 6'10", 6'11". You're not going to, you know, with the exception of maybe a Kevin Love or something like that. And even Kevin Love, the level of strength is just going to be, you know, totally different. So while I do commend Mark Cuban for making the comments and, you know, giving her good support, I don't think you're going to see Brittany Griner in the NBA anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree with all of you guys. I personally think Brittany Griner is a great player. She's been the best post to ever play women's college basketball. However, I just don't think that she really has the strength or the speed. I mean, you never know. Maybe one day someone will be able to make it from a women's basketball player, but I just personally don't think Brittany Griner is the one to do it. Like you were saying earlier too, Sean, is that Mark Cuban has been one to always talk and bring up hype and stuff. And if you look, his Dallas Mavericks team has done nothing this year. They've not talked about. Dirk has been nowhere, just growing his beard out. And so he's has to say something. I mean, you haven't heard about Dallas in a while. So by doing that, hopefully he's probably trying to get more attention to his team to see if they give him, I don't know, boost fan ratings, do a little Jeremy Lin thing here or something. I don't know. But I agree. I don't think Brittany Griner would be right for the NBA. But she would definitely do well in the WNBA for sure.
Hey, Dallas needs a post player, right?
That's true. That's true.
I'm telling you.
They got that stretch forward, but yeah. So do you guys think that there could ever be a chance for a women's player? I mean, Brittany Griner is, can we agree she's probably the best women's basketball player we've ever seen?
Yeah.
So if not her, then you really ask yourself, I mean, you know, we're not Nostradamus here, but is there a chance, do you guys think, that there could be a women's NBA player one day?
It's tough to say because, like, you got a female going against a guy that can bench 320 pounds easily.
Yeah.
So that's a tough one.
It is tough.
Real quick, Troy, yes or no, a women's NBA player?
I think we will see one.
One day?
Probably not in our lifetime, but we will.
I believe we will see one.
Okay. Well, we'll take a quick break. We're going to kick it to Perfect Pets.
Watch out, here comes Zach. He's a 3-year-old Shar-Pei mix. He's very smart, curious, and loves to be the center of attention. Meet Milano, a 7-year-old male domestic medium-haired cat. He's very friendly, easygoing, and would love a new lap to keep warm. And here's Watson, a 2-year-old male terrier mix. He's cute, loves to fetch, and sure would like a home.
To find out more about adoption for these pets or others, contact the Cooley Region Humane Society at 781-4014.
You gotta be quick as all get out, though.
Again, the number for the Cooley Region Humane Society is 781-4014. All right. Next, we're going to stick with the NBA, and we'll go to the NBA playoffs. Coming up soon here, everyone kind of forgets about the NBA during this time of the year with the NCAA tournament going on. But we got NBA basketball coming up in the playoffs. So, guys, give me some of your predictions for teams like the Lakers, the Heat, whoever you want to talk about.
Me personally, I think the Heat might win it this year. They just haven't handed out to them. No Danny Granger, no Derrick Rose. Marcus Camby's been hurt for the Knicks. They really need him if they're going to play against them. And as far as the Lakers go, I don't think they get in this year. It's just too daunting of a task. I think they lose at least 2 games this year. I mean, the final of 5 games they have, I think they lose at least 2. And I think the Jazz just have an easier route. I believe they make it.
We talk a lot about the Lakers and the Heat, but I'm happy to see my hometown team, the Milwaukee Bucks, in the playoffs. They just solidified a playoff spot, and as of now, they will be facing the Miami Heat in the first round of the playoffs. Now, this may be a little far-fetched to viewers, but I believe that the Miami Heat will have their hands full with the Milwaukee Bucks. We have Brandon Jennings and Monte Ellis, and they can both easily put up 45 points a night. So, with that said, you definitely need to watch out for that. But other than that, the Heat will dominate the playoffs.
Yeah. The Bucks have actually been the team that has given the Heat a lot of their trouble the whole season.
This is true.
So I do believe that I will probably say the Bucks maybe 1 game. However, I think after LeBron and the Heat won that title, I think they're going to be unstoppable for years to come. They're going to be a new dynasty in the NBA. I do see OKC in Denver possibly playing them in the championship, but like I said, I'm taking the Heat all the way, and I hope that the Lakers don't make the playoffs. The last time the Lakers didn't make the playoffs was before Kobe Bryant was born, so it'd be something sweet to see that the Lakers finally not making it, because I'm sick of hearing about the Lakers all the time. It's just, get over them. I mean, yes, they're like one of the biggest dynasties and one of the biggest franchises in sports today, but it's just like, let them fade away for a little bit. Let some other team take over their spotlight.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk about the Milwaukee Bucks, too, because I think that that's a team that's really been under the radar this season, and they've been stumbling as of late, but I'm a huge Bucks fan. And while I don't think that they can knock off the Miami Heat, I do think that if they just steal 1 game, it'll get enough attention on a small market team that people will start to say, hey, that's a team in Milwaukee that plays hard, plays the game the right way. People will fall in love with guys like Larry Sanders, Brandon Jennings. Brandon Jennings, the only other time he's been in the playoffs is 2009. And in 2009, he had a pretty darn good series against the Atlanta Hawks. It was his coming out party. In his first NBA playoff game, he actually was 1 point away from an NBA rookie debut points record. So I think that, the Milwaukee Bucks, while they're not going to win the series, I think, how great would it be to turn on First Take the morning after, a Miami Heat Milwaukee Bucks game, and they're talking about, oh, what's wrong with the Heat because the Bucks beat them 1 game. So I think that that's something to watch for, and I think that that will be an entertaining series, because even Brandon Jennings said earlier in the year, he said, we want the Miami Heat because we know we match up well against them. So I think that that's a good series to watch for. On top of it, out in the West, I think something that not a lot of people are talking about is the possibility of the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Houston Rockets matching up in the first round. James Harden against his old team with a chip on his shoulder. Who knows what can happen there?
Yeah.
Now we'll go to the ice, and we will talk about real quick the NHL playoffs. NHL coming off a lockout-shortened season. But let's talk about some predictions for the NHL playoffs, Chuck.
Well, I'm a big NHL fan, actually. Coming from Minnesota, the state of hockey, I got my Ducks jersey on today representing Anaheim. But I'm very excited that, first of all, the NHL was able to reach an agreement to come out of that deal, because I know there have been a lot of money lost for the NHL. Right now it's not really the biggest sport. I mean, you got the NBA and NFL make way more money than the NHL do, so it definitely helps that they can keep their season alive. Chicago, though, is one team that I like to talk about. The Chicago Blackhawks started out super well. They went, 21-0-3. They tied 3 games, won 21 games. They had a ridiculous start, and they're still doing really well. But then on the other side, for the East, the Pittsburgh Penguins recently just picked up Jerome McGinley, the star player for the Red Wings. So now that the Pittsburgh Penguins has Malkin, Crosby, and Iginla, they're going to be a force to reckon with. I'm not a big Crosby fan personally. I think he's a little baby for the NHL. about how he does a lot of things. He's a great player, don't get me wrong, he's a great player. But I think he does a little too much complaining for the NHL's sake. But I can't wait till the playoffs get here. I love the Minnesota Wild. They're actually finally making it back to the playoffs. You would think that Minnesota would have a great professional hockey team with all the great stars that come out of Minnesota. But it's just, I don't know, something with our recruiting or something. But right now, Minnesota's sitting at the 6th seed, and they actually have a chance to make it to the second or third round of the playoffs, and I'm very looking forward to that.
True. Just a question to Chuck real fast. How do you think the Penguins going to do without Cosby? Because I heard he's out indefinitely with like a broken jaw from a puck.
Oh, that's true. Yes, I do. I totally forgot about that. Yes. Wow. Crosby, yeah. He got hit in the face. Oh, that was like 2 weeks ago now. That was a very horrific injury, and you kind of do feel bad for Crosby. He first had that major concussion problem, and now he's out with his jaw problem. But however, Malkin has stepped up to the plate in previous years and has taken the Pittsburgh Penguins deep into the playoffs. And now with Jerome and Ginlub, they're helping him out. I really do believe that the Penguins are still going to be the team to mess with. However, I do think that Chicago, or even possibly the Montreal Canadiens, could be taking it this year. So it's interesting because it's not like a lot of sports where there's a team that really just dominates the whole thing. Throughout NHL, there's been a lot of close games, and anyone can take it right now, so it's going to be a great playoffs to look forward to.
Yeah. So what about the Chicago Blackhawks? I know that they only lost about 5 games this season, right? Mm-hmm. What do you think about their playoff hopes?
Well, I actually know the starting defenseman for the Chicago Blackhawks, Nick Leddy. Shout out to you, man, doing work over there for Chicago. So they're probably are the strongest team. They have all their players right now, and they're looking very strong, and they have this connection that they've had for, I think now 4 years that they've had this team together. And I really believe after the upsetting season last year, ending a little early, that they can take it all the way this year. And especially now that they're so far ahead of all the other teams, they're going to have home ice advantage. And everyone knows that all Chicago teams are crazy. Everywhere you go in Chicago, all the Chicago fans are crazy, right?
I can contest to this. We are. I remember the time they won the championship. It was actually I was going to school and the whole street was just filled. I couldn't even get on the train because we had a little parade or whatever downtown. It was pretty fun.
In case you can't tell, Chuck is our resident hockey expert. But for my part, it's good to see a league that got their lockout resolved. The last time the NHL went into a lockout, they missed an entire season, and I don't think any hockey fans wanted to see that happen. And on top of it, being an NBA fan, I know the impact a lockout can have on a season. So, hockey was really popular last season, and we'll see if it does the same. So we're going to kick it over to Darrell to start our rants for the week. So, Darrell, why don't you go for it?
The thing I want to talk about this week is Jake Cutler and elite quarterback status. Jake Cutler is one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He has all the intangibles. He has a strong arm. He's mobile, and he has one of the highest winning percentages in the NFL. As far as he's been a starter for the Bears. His offensive line is bad. That's why he gets really bad flack. And also the fact that he gets hurt pretty frequently. However, Jake Cutler is somebody to watch out for when they talk about elite. Because I believe he's going to win a Super Bowl and a couple Super Bowls, to be honest. He is going to be a good quarterback.
I would like to congratulate the University of Wisconsin lacrosse's men's and women's track and field team for a job well done this weekend at the Ashton May Invitational. We were celebrating the late great coach and athlete Ashton May. She was a decorated athlete, and she unfortunately lost her life last year. Athletes came out this weekend and they put it down on the line, and they did a tremendous job. So great job, track and field team.
I would like to talk about, from my rant, is Minnesota sports. I'm sick of going to school in Wisconsin and getting crap from all Wisconsin fans for every sport, hearing about the Packers this, the Packers that, the Badgers this, the Badgers that. I want to say we have the best team in the women's and WNBA with the Lynx. And yes, you may laugh a little bit, but hey, the WNBA is, the Lynx are a great team out there. We also have the women's hockey team for Minnesota has 48 win streak right now. It's actually the longest win streak in NCAA history for hockey. So they've won back-to-back national championships. So I would love to give a shout out to Minnesota and all the women's sports out there.
How about those Vikings?
They're going to win it. Just wait.
Right.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you for tuning in to Sports Talk Live. We'll do it again next week. Tune in Thursday for this for WMCM's edition of Week in Review. Thanks for watching, everybody, and enjoy some sports this week.